toothpick. Don't complain about the size of the pens. Okay, good morning. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good morning to all 6 of you at one time. Glad to have you. Glad to be here. Glad the guy had made a choice and I made a good one, so that's good. So, do we have anyone that has a special prayer request this morning? That'll be fine. Because they're spoken to someone. Okay. Yes, ma'am. I got yours. Okay. I don't know if you guys could hear or not. Jackie says she'd like for us to continue to pray for her and her friends, and they just lost another soul at the home that she stays at. So we'll keep Jackie in our prayers. Larry and Brenda, Jack and Marilyn, I'm not sure what their status is up to this point. But we'll continue to pray for them. We know that there are probably 4 of them, probably at least 2 of them are listening this morning. So hopefully they have a chance to get everything straightened out and move forward. It'll be great. I want to continue to pray for the United States of America, our country that I don't know hardly how to pray for it because we're in such a disarray of things that we have. But just keep it in your heart. Pray for America. Pray for the knowledge and the wisdom that needs to be given to the people that are going to make the choice. And that's what's going to happen. The choice is going to be millions of people. And it will be interesting at the best, one way or the other. So anyway, just ask God, if He would, to continue to watch over America. Because the world feeds, I don't know if you ever studied this, but the world feeds off America. Okay? When America's got problems, the entire world has got problems. Because we spend so much time and energy and resources. Good morning, Connie. How you? All right. We're up to 8 now. Come on in, Cedric. That's right. The good, bad, and the ugly all at one time, I'll tell you. Yes, good point. Brother Cooley just reminded me to pray for Israel. And Lord have mercy, if there's a country we need to save, it will be Israel. I mean, everyone that's ever been to church, knee-high to whatever, knows that Israel is the driver. That's where all the sacredness stuff came from. We can't afford to lose that. And I think we have some administration that'll be able to handle that. I'm not too sure about the other side, but anyway. Connie, is this your first day back for a while? Or? Oh, okay. Well, I was AWOL last week, so I'm sorry. But you're looking well, and I'm hoping everything continues to improve with your health and the surgery that you had. So, unless you got an update or something, I'll move on.
No, it's going to take a while.
Take a while. Okay. Cedric's over making signs. Anyway, unspoken prayer this morning, which I'm sure the Lord can hear through all the powers that He possesses. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll open up with a short prayer, and then I'll go out and man the front door. It's my turn. So let's bow our heads in prayer. Our Father in heaven, we want to thank you so much for all the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us this week. Obviously, we're healthy enough to come to church. We're well enough to want to come and be attentive. Brother Cooley has got a message coming. We'll pray for him too because he has a computer problem at this point. And so if it be in your will somehow to let us get that fixed or have someone that can come by and fix it for him in his house, whatever it may be, because he does such a great job, and I don't think anyone could write that much verbiage. You'd have to go on the computer. So we'll leave it in your hands, and hopefully everything will work out just fine. We want to really focus on America if we possibly can, Israel, obviously, as we just mentioned. And we want to just keep ourselves strong and keep ourselves in goodwill and do what we can as individuals on the ground here, speaking to people in what we think is obviously the right direction to go. But with that being said, we continue to thank you for the privileges that you're giving us to come to church. Hopefully the people who are out traveling, August is first Sunday in August. So we know people are probably still vacation. If they are, please be with them, keep them safe, and let us enjoy this message. Also, the special message we have today from a group that's coming in. Bless them, bless the pastor, and bless the service tonight. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. So real quick, chapter 3 update in the Daniel book. I'll go to your first page of the chapter 3, I'll get you one right now.
Okay. When we get this, when you get your update. Anyway, we're going to start off with the decree of Nebuchadnezzar in chapter 3, verse 28 through 30. I've enjoyed the Philippians 4:8 study that we've had, and the guys are doing a good job. Ken Michael did a great job Wednesday night. He always does. But this cochlear thing, I don't understand everybody's. I understand very few people's speech, very much of it, let me put it that way. And Kenny's diction was good. Ken Michael's diction was good. And that really helps. 60 years ago when I was in seminary, we studied diction a lot, but I forgot it, and then as I lost hearing, it got worse. So I don't know what we're going to do about all that. My computer died. This has happened a few times. It's going to take a while to. I think Brian's on vacation. I don't know if he's back. Pardon? He normally works on this for me. I need a new drive in that computer, which is not a terrible thing. The problem is Windows 10 is not going to be supported after 2025 or sometime in 2025, and it has to go to Windows 11, and my computer won't process that, so I don't know what don't know whether to put money into this or get another one. I don't have several $1,000s to get. To do the work I'm doing with over 7,000 books in the Logos software, I need to be on Windows 11, and it requires more equipment. So, and we're not financially able to do that. I'm going to finish this little section, and then I told you last week that I'm going to do an excursus, and that word means to deviate a little or go into some other information. I'm going to do an excursus on the musical instruments. Since the musical instruments are listed in chapter 3, verse 5, verse 7, verse 10, verse 15. Listed those 5 times. It deserves a little treatment. You know, the Bible doesn't put something in it that much that it doesn't want you to know something about. And it's really hard to process this stuff without the computer. So I'm going to try to read handwritten notes when I get through with this little section. I'm going to try to read handwritten notes, and that's tough for me. I have essential tremors, and my handwriting really shows it. And to study that, I've got, I was telling Brother Ken that I normally in my software will have as many as 50 books open. Translations. In Daniel, I'm using Hebrew and Aramaic language dictionaries to look up words and get them. And then I have all these other resources that I can go to. So I tried to spread a dictionary, a Bible. I will normally have in the computer 3 King James Version Bibles open to different texts so I can get it fast. And then a bunch of others. So I had this stuff spread all over the table trying to study it, so it was pretty hard. But let's then I've had trouble sleeping worrying about it. So, but I can't do anything about it, so you're not supposed to worry. You know, I know that. Do you know there are things you're not supposed to do or things you are supposed to do, but you have trouble with it? I'm glad I'm not the only one with that nutty problem. Okay. Anyway, in chapter 3, we have Nebuchadnezzar building the image, and he's calling all the leaders together. And when they hear all the instruments, they're to bow down and to worship. And whoever doesn't will be cast into a fiery furnace. Aramaic is a shining, blazing furnace. Whatever it is, it's a furnace and it's hot. right? 7 times hotter because they built the fire quickly. Nebuchadnezzar was really angry. Now, Nebuchadnezzar was astonished. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would not compromise. He gave them a second chance. I think he really appreciated their advice and their wisdom and leading in this particular area. The Babylonian territory outside of the palace in Babylon. And they would not bow down. He gave them an opportunity to bow down, and they said, "We will not." And he said, "What God can save you?" And he says, "Well, whether God saves us or not, we're not going to bow down and to worship an image." Their culture, their training in Jerusalem was, you do not bow to an image. Now, the truth is, right from the very beginning when they came out of Egypt, Moses is on the mountain and Aaron builds a golden calf and they worship, right? So they compromised over and over and over and over. And you'll find a number of kings where people worshiped image. Now, after this captivity, Israel did not worship images again. And that's amazing. Don't understand all of the reasons there, but that's just the reality of it. Now, let's read this text and get into an explanation. They came out of the burning bush. Their clothes were not burned. Their hair's not singed. There's no smell of smoke. And Nebuchadnezzar is amazed. Now, in chapter 3 and verse... I wrote that down wrong. 28, I think. Yeah. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, "Blessed be the God," singular. That's very interesting because of the way they always talk about gods. "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who hath sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word, and yielded their bodies that they might not serve nor worship any god except their own God. Therefore I make a decree." Okay? He is so amazed by what happened, he's going to change the law. You remember this whole thing came to his attention because the Chaldeans, the people that were jealous of the Jews, told the king, "These people don't respect you. They don't bow down and worship you," and all like that. So he changes, or he makes a new law. "Therefore I make a decree that every person, nation, and language which speaks anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces." You remember, this is what he threatened to do with the wise men in chapter 2 that couldn't interpret the dream. Nebuchadnezzar has a bit of a temper. Did you notice? That's why He threatened to kill the wise men while he threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the fiery furnace. And so it's same thing comes up God again. They shall be cut into pieces. Their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there, look at this carefully, there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in their province of Babylon. So they were already leaders there. The other wise men didn't like the fact that they were in whatever position is. Now they got a bigger position. So they came up against them. Now they're in worse shape. Commentary. Nebuchadnezzar not only recognized the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, but now he commends them for their trust in him alone. There were a lot of people, many thousands of people taken captive out of Israel and brought to Babylon. You remember in Jerusalem, Jeremiah prophesied this would happen. They would take them away. Isaiah even prophesied that they would be, people and leaders would be taken away. But Ezekiel preached and prophesied to a large portion, don't know exactly where he was. And many of Ezekiel's prophecy refers to end time things as well as what was going on in the current time. But Jeremiah told the people, you go peacefully into the land, build homes, have families, but worship your God. So I don't know that Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were the only ones that were truly faithful, but they started off in verse 1, or in chapter 1, they wouldn't compromise on their food. They wanted to follow the dietary laws of Israel. They prayed and asked God for help interpreting the dream in chapter 2. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood up to Nebuchadnezzar here. And now he's commending them. He told them he was going to burn them. Now he's commending them because none of his gods could have done this. And that's what this thing is all about anyway. Since Israel had always worshipped, or many in Israel would be a better way to phrase it, many in Israel had always worshipped images and other gods. Nebuchadnezzar's come out and say, our gods couldn't have saved anybody. Only their God could have done this. Very powerful, important statement. You wonder why Israel had to go into captivity for all of these many years. Because God was going to get idolatry out of them. So, there we go. Now, so he recognized the superiority of their God and their own deity. their worship of him, and having said all of this, he said that because of this, their faith in their God. In other words, they denied me, and they had faith in their God, and because of that, I'm going to give them a promotion. They're going to have more power, and anybody that speaks against their God is going to be cut into pieces, their houses destroyed. Houses destroyed probably means more than just a structure. Probably means family, their family name and heritage. When Nebuchadnezzar goes about this stuff, he goes about it with all hands and feet and a whole army. He's gonna wipe them out. Now, the main thrust of the passage is something that critics say was totally invented and never happened. Okay? You got that? I spent a great deal of time in the introduction of Daniel talking about these critics and what they believed. And I think some that I know thought, you don't need to know all of that. But there's those that do not believe that Daniel was written 600 years before Christ, they believe that it was written 200 to 150 years before Christ. They think this was all made up, fictitious stuff. This book will give you tales from people that made up lies. But they're quoting people it's quoting people that lies. In the end, this book reveals what they said was lies, and this book is true. And many Bible scholars will only find out too late that they've taught lies and led many people astray. By the way, this also plays into the understanding the musical instruments. I think chapter 3 deals with these individuals and events that set up the story for chapter 4. I really hate to start chapter 4, which I'll be doing next week, without my computer, but I don't think there's anything that can be done about that. Okay. Now, chapter 3 at Excursus, we're talking about musical instruments. Nothing is printed on that, so you will need your Bibles for that. And I want to do this first. Let's look at chapter 3 and verse 4. Then a herald cried aloud, "To you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at what time you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, ye hear the sound, the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of instruments, you will all bow down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king hath set up. Okay? I can't write the Aramaic words. Can't write them. If I could do it on the computer. So we're just going to use cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music. Now, in order to do that, turn back for a moment to Psalm 137. The book of Psalms was written over a longer period of time than any other book in the Bible. We have Psalms from Moses. We have Psalms of David, Psalms of Solomon, Psalms of Hezekiah, some Psalms we don't know who wrote, and then Psalms that were written after the exile. But this one relates to the exile, and we want to look this. Psalms 37, verse 1, then by the rivers of Babylon we sat down, there we sat down, we wept, and we remembered Zion. When Nebuchadnezzar brought the Jewish captives into Babylon, he wanted to destroy their culture and their God. By the way, there is strong political move in this country to destroy our culture and our God. If you really want to change people, change their culture and their God. When black people came into this country, they mostly served as slaves. Many earned their freedom from their masters, and later, after the Civil War, they all did. But they retained their culture. And many brought Christianity into their culture. Some of the most beautiful Christian music are a part of that Negro Christian culture. The Irish, when they came to this country, They came as indentured servants. What does that mean? They were slaves. And many came to the New England area, coastal areas. Many of them would serve as police officers. And still there are a lot of Irish police officers and firemen that serve. Many went to New Orleans, and they could get a job on the decks loading cargo ships in the ports after all the blacks got the job. They were below the blacks in getting jobs. But they retained their culture. The Irish came in and retained their culture. Asians came in and retained their culture. It was all a part of it. I had a man that was in the church I pastored in Charlotte, married a lady when he was in the service in, she was in Okinawa, and brought her to the States, and they had children. And she had accepted the Christ. She never learned to speak English very good, and she was a marvelous lady. She invited me over one day and some other friends to fix lunch. And oh my, could that lady cook seafood on a wok or something? I don't know what it was. And it was just terrible. Her culture and my culture clashed. She fixed that, and she brought it and served me first. And I was supposed to eat it now, because now is when it's the best. And she's trying to tell me, no, let's serve it to everybody. And we all sit together, we eat. Man, so finally I broke down, and that was absolutely unreal. And they had some children, and they didn't care anything about her culture, and I just thought that was awful. And I asked her husband about it one day, and he said, no, the kids are independent. They want to do their own thing, and they pretty much do, so the only time they'll come to church, he gave them the keys to the gym so they could go in and play basketball with their friends, but they didn't come to any services. And she didn't come because she didn't understand anything. And I said, well, how will all that work out? He says, it works pretty good, except once in a while she gets to be a little bit sassy, and she'll backtalk me, and I send her home to her mother in Okinawa to be retrained. And then when she comes back, she serves me like she ought. I hope he was kidding. But I'm not sure. Anyway, culture's important. Now, Nebuchadnezzar wanted to serve it. So they come, these exiles, sat down and wept over Jerusalem, which is Zion. You'll find Jerusalem in the Bible many times. You'll find Zion in the Bible. I think once it's spelled with an S. But that means Jerusalem. In its context, it means Jerusalem. So they're weeping over, though they all may not have lived in Jerusalem, they weep, and they still pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and we are commanded to do so as well. And it sat down and wept. We hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst of thereof, for see. For there they required that we that carried us away captive required a song, and they that wasted us required of us myrrh, saying, sing one of the songs of Zion. Now, when they sat down, they were sitting down by the rivers, which were referred to the Euphrates, and the channels and the waterways related to the Euphrates River. They hung their harps on, the Bible says, willows. That's actually a poplar tree. Understanding what woods are in Bible's kind of tough. Matter of fact, it's tough even in this country. You go down to Lowe, you can go in there, you can buy a poplar board. And it's a kind of a greenish looking wood. It's soft, but you won't find a lot of knots in it. Whereas if you have a pine board, you're going to have a lot of knots in it. If you go down to Mississippi and Louisiana, it's called tupelo. And it's a great carving wood. People that carve wood ducks like that real well. You go up to the western states and the mountains, and it'll be aspen. So, what does that mean? It wasn't a willow, it's something else. It was poplar. They didn't have willow in that area. The harps that they sang, and this is why I'm quoting this passage, the harps that they hang on the willows. They weren't going to take them in. They just left them there. Man, if somebody was smart, they'd pick all of them up and wrap them up good in plastic and preserve them so somebody can find them later and be worth a fortune. That's a 10-string. The Hebrew word is Kinnor. And it's pronounced Kinnor. It's a 10-string instrument, and it's eventually this is going to get back to you in print, okay? But this is the harp that David used. The strings were made out of sheep gut. And I have a set of instruments that are made out of sheep gut. I have 3 of the Kinnors made out of sheep gut, but I don't put any tension on them because the last I bought them, each string was $10, and that was a long time ago. It'd be a whole lot more expensive now. And the ones I play, I put nylon strings on them. Nylon's not the correct term. There's a particular term for a musical instrument, nylon. And so those of you who've seen me play the instruments, I play the ones with that. With the sheep gut, if you get it tuned right on a humid day, and then you I usually bring it into church and let it sits in the air conditioning overnight. It'll dry up and pop them, so you blow $100 for the strings. So I don't put attention on them anymore. Now, so they hung them there. Now, this is not the same instrument, but a similar instrument mentioned in harp. And I want to go on and read a couple of more verses. They wanted them to sing, and they said, how can we sing when we're not there? How can we sing of Zion when we're not there? If you were to go out in front of Walmart or some store and start singing hymns, well, you could probably get away with that in Monroe without a lot of trouble. But there's some places that you get really a hard time. And these people were mocking them. Why to sing songs to people that are mocking you? And verse 4, how shall we sing the Lord's songs in a strange land? If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget it, her cunning. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I not prefer Jerusalem above all chief joys. And that simply means, if I forget Jerusalem, let my right hand lose its skill or its ability to do work. Unless you're left-handed, I don't know how many left-handed people we got. It would be your left hand. Then he says that, where am I? 50. Really? I'm not going to finish this. Then he says that the tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth means I be mute, just not be able to speak. And that was the context of that particular verse.